we expecting that consistency to be, right? And we can use those numbers to kind of help indicate, right, Vivid, like, where do we need to be at the end of this?
Yeah, exactly, right? Everybody playing in group number 2, group number 3, everybody watching amongst these groups, right? We already saw group number 1. We have something to kind of expect. And here are the top 5 teams, consistency-wise, that qualified into finals. And 4 of these teams are actually
with Reliance Flex your credit
in a pretty cool stat that, you know, me and Kelly kind of dug up and kind of discovered, and that stat is actually going to be that 4 of those 5 consistent teams actually stayed in the top 5 throughout all of the games in group 1. All 5 games, they were in the top 5. So I thought that was very, very cool, right? Like, we can kind of use that to maybe make some predictions today. Teams that are doing well earlier on, that are already top 5, we can kind of expect them to qualify through. But another interesting stat was that pop-off winners. Teams in the top 10 winning the game, there were 0 in group number 1. So what does that mean? All of the victory royales in group number 1 came from teams that were not necessarily doing well on the consistency leaderboard. So you can kind of look at all of the qualification spots in group number 1 and be like, wow, there were some serious clutches that happened.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have the Donnie 1v3. You have Cease, of course, clutching it up, getting enough points in the final moment to get his team into that 10th place spot. But obviously, there's a bit of a difference between Group 1 and 2, as we heard MDF and Jacob said. I mean, it's a difference between 3 titles in the FNCS for Group 1 and 15 titles between all the players here in Group 2. So I think they're a bit more experienced, and I don't know if we're going to be seeing kind of the same situation in this group.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt it changes from group to group, but I'm happy that you kind of brought up that Cease clutch, because that's something that I also wanted to look at, because I feel like it's important to know how big of a clutch that Cease pulled off. So when we go into kind of like our final game of the day today, we can maybe use this clutch as a merit to be like, okay, these teams that are, you know, at this point on the leaderboard, do they have a chance to qualify through the consistency leaderboard, or are they going to need a victory royale? First and foremost, though, I mean, we got to give a huge shout out to Cease, because this clutch was incredible. An old guard in the Fortnite competitive scene, been playing for a very, very long time. And, you know, sometimes the older guys, the mechanics, you know, they kind of wash away a little bit. They're hard to kind of pick it back up, but C's proving that some of that is still there for him. I wanted to take a quick look at the leaderboard after game number 4 from group number 1, right? So this was going into game number 5. You could see C's, Jack, Blake, they're in 9th place, 121 points. They ended the group at 200 plus points, right? Like, it was an 80-point swing for that trio. That's kind of the merit that I'm going to be looking at today. It is possible for teams to pull off these giant clutches, not just to a victory royale.
Yeah, and we saw between 10th and 15th place for Group 1 was only a 42-point difference. So those 80 points right there can obviously make or break so many trios, but it's going to be quite the gauntlet, Zeke. There are so many big names, so many teams that could easily make it into any grand finals, but we only have 10 spots.
I know, and what's crazy too coming off EU is like what we saw there was Queasy comes in, king of high ground, right? And we're like, okay, what are we supposed to do? This guy's going to be terrorizing our lobby. He qualifies, gets a victory royale game number 1, and that's it. It's like, okay, wait, hold on. We can all breathe for 4 games, right? So as we kind of highlight some of these trios, any one of them could look to just go into game 1, get a victory royale, start thinking about, you know, Major 1 finals. As we've kind of seen from EU already, do you guys have anything you guys are cooking up? Like, one of the questions I asked them was, how do we combat this, like, chaotic environment, right? Everyone wants the victory royale. Everyone is running around low ground, mid ground, nothing to their name because they all want the same thing. We want the win. And on top of that, we have some team on high ground above us that won't let us breathe.
I think at this point, there isn't much more you can do than what you've been doing before, which is preparing. Hopefully these teams have been watching what's been going on, not just in Group 1, but also in the EU Groups 1 and 2, having a plan, having a strategy, and not just a strategy of how do we win, but also how do we evolve as Group 2 evolves as well.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Z, right? All of that chaos, that's kind of what trios ensues. There's 3 players that can make a play at any point in time, even if it's just a trio that's up on the high gun, 3 players shooting at the same box. Very, very chaotic, but this is why they are the professionals. They know how to handle these situations, and I'm excited to see who handles it best today.
That's right, y'all got me super hyped, so let's do it. Game number 1 is ready for us, so casters, take it away. We're excited for the weekend here. Group 2, Game 1 is about to be underway here at the FNCS. Fortnite is on the menu right now. Obviously, Group 1 was just setting the stage for us, Jacob. So, what are you looking forward to?
I'm honestly looking for some underdog stories. We talked about how stacked it is at the top, the players with experience, but let's talk about those underdogs. Let's see somebody today that has zero finals experience make it into the finals at the end. That's what I want to see, Monster.
Hey man, well, we all know anything can happen here as the battle bus starts to ready up right now. The drops, of course, we are looking at the center of the map. We're going to be paying close attention to what PETERBOT, Cold, and of course Ritual can do. Given that their, again, performance is leading up, they seem like they were kind of easing up. So let's go ahead and do it and jump on the battle bus. All right, Jacob, here we have it. Game number 1 is right in front of us. This is where things get exciting. We only have 5 games, right? So every single round is going to matter so much, not only for the overall standings, but of course, who will win and go straight to finals right now. That is what we're going to be looking at. There are teams being contested all around the world, and we get to start with Glow Squad.
Yeah, this one's going to be a tough one. Over towards Tinkle Terrace, a lot of space, but immediately they get those floor spawns and go to work. Zach is going to be the first one dropped. He goes back to back. They don't even see him at the top of the roof, just terrorizing everybody down below. And he's not even wasting time getting the elims. He's letting his teammates know where the last player is at for a quick cleanup right out of the gates.
Big eliminations here at the Twinkle Terrace. A quick set of points there. That's exactly how you want your drop to go down. Day, Glow, and Wick CR there playing very, very well. Meanwhile, on the other side, a fight's already concluded. A team is just now landing at the Demon's Dojo, really showing you that the battle bus will, of course, affect your drop and the action here. Pressure's on right now as Circus got CR right behind the tree, and it's going to be a quick elimination. And another full team now quickly wiped here at the Demon's Dojo. Last week, the Demon's Dojo was one of the most highly sought-after draw spots, right? And for good reason. We already know that there are plenty of upgrades to pick up here, but more importantly, those major medals, of course, and the mythic items you can walk out of here with.
Yeah, it's definitely very, very important. And you spoke about last week, as these games go on, Victory Royale winners are no longer in these lobbies. Spots will open up. We expect to see teams switch it up, but the fan favorite, the team that you almost expect to be in the FNCS finals this major is Cold, Ritual, and PETERBOT. And you can see Flooded Frogs with the changes that came to Flooded Frogs. They said, Brutal Boxcars, let's get out of there. Let's go to the new BOI, the new overpowered one that they just claimed. And you can see there was only 2 people there because they command so much respect, so much space to loot up elsewhere as well.
Here's a team we didn't really get to talk about a couple of moments ago, but come on, let's be honest. Diego, Possessed, we've seen them in many finals lobbies before. They're going up against Maniac, Drastic, and FX Line here over at the Shogun Solitude, and a very tough fight right now, I would say, for Maniac and company here, given that, again, they're going against very, very experienced teams. It does seem like Diego's trio is set up for success right now. Shields are looking pretty solid, and they have a bit of high ground here to work with.
Yeah, just kind of looking at the drop maps, I know it's just kind of like a guess, like an estimate of where teams are going to drop, but Diego, Possessed, Ralph, they were the team. Honestly, they thought they were uncontested. They thought it was free out here, and then you get a surprise contest, and then this is one of those spots on the side of the map. There's not really a lot of metal. You got to rotate down into so many different crevices to get to the next part of the map, so I do love the play they're making to disengage. Don't put everything you got here in game number 1 in a risky off-spawn fight.
Yeah, it just shows you the difference, right? Different contested drops. If it ends quick, you're good. If it's going to get dragged out, you want to go ahead and move on sooner rather than later before you get punished and put in a worse off situation. Japco, Muzz, and Rise, we've highlighted this team so much, right? Just given that, of course, we saw the swaps. Clix, of course, once being a part of this trio, who's now found himself in the finals. You got to keep eyes on them. And then, of course, Vidil. The biggest surprise to me of all the trios, of all the rosters out there, this one right here, Vidil coming to America to compete with Sphinx and Cooper. What a sweet surprise here now.
Yeah, can you imagine the turnaround for Vidil this season? He didn't necessarily perform so well in the FNCA trial on EU. Didn't really have anybody to play with. We heard about the phone call. Cooper going from a coin flip to a phone call, getting Vidil all the way from EU to NA. And Monster, let me tell you, they have been one of the most consistent teams this season outside of Peter, Cold, and Ritual. And that's why a lot of our analysts from all over, not just the ones on the show, are looking at this as the potential team to take that top spot away from them. Oh, that's right. And then, of course, BUGHA, Threats, and Aviv. I like to look at this team as not only a highly skilled, very competent set of players, but friends, right? Friends that, of course, have participated with one another in a various amount of events and different types of different tournaments. And now, of course, looking to get it all back together here for the FNCS, running it back one good time. Had a lot of chances to catch up with even Threats himself. Just a very level-headed player right here. This is a team that can easily, of course, pull a victory royale. And then you have Sinetto, Veer, and Scar here. I mean, I had to highlight them just a bit, right? Lost Lake's a great drop spot, but more importantly, very, very seasoned team as well. So this is what makes Group 2 so exciting, so much to work with. And look at this. Looks like they are turning in that Water Spirit.
Yeah, my only real question is how a lot of these teams that are uncontested are going to kind of set up, start to get their surge. You can see a real priority on looting, getting your materials, getting your resources. That way you can. You see him kind of letting his two teammates. You see them in the minimap push a little bit towards the south. They know Surge is going to be in their head. You see the stat right there, around 1,700 damage to stay above Storm Surge all game. And that's why you see his teammates trying to be proactive to get, even if it's a little bit of Surge early on.
Yeah. Some easy math for you to work towards. Here's Bacon, Cam, and Macwood looking for some exchanges. Meanwhile, PETERBOT, though, biting off more than they can chew. Ritual and Cold left to try to clutch this one up. A lot of down bodies here, though, so this is absolutely winnable as it's a 2v1 situation right now for Ritual and Cold.
Yeah, and honestly, when I was kind of thinking about this team, talking about weaknesses, and you kind of look at them at first glance, they have no weaknesses, and then I really start to think their own weakness might even be themselves, and Cold realizes it's solo. We talked about how dangerous he can be as an individual player, especially with PETERBOT on his team, but with no help, he lands the first shot. The second one's even easier to complete the wipe, and if you look at that, Cold, all 3 eliminations for the team, setting the tone and the pace for this trio.
You line up 10 teams in this lobby right now, I promise you, 9 of them are not making that push there. It doesn't make sense, but Cold is so confident. When he wants the door open, he kicks it down. Well played for him. Jumping on into Victor V here, Skittles and Chim. I like this pairing right here. Obviously, we saw a lot of Victor V last year, right? Paired up alongside Paper. He's had so much time to grow and continue to mature as a player. And he had a big decision, Jacob, right? Does he stay on NA and basically compete here on the central servers or otherwise? And he decided to stick around and take on the competition.
Yeah, and I love that. He's somebody that you kind of think about years ago on that Western region contesting Arkham and Epic. Everybody on Twitter, everybody on social media just kind of looking at them saying maybe they're just not doing it right. But he said, I'm not backing down. I'm not scared of a challenge. If you want this drop spot, you're going to have to fight me. And since then, you talked about the experience. He's been doing so well. And now with 2 players like that, I think he can continue to perform well as we go from team to team, checking out these spots. A lot of them already getting these mountain ranges, the top of these hills, trying to set up their surge bases, especially with the zone pulling towards the south. That's how they're going to get the surge, at least the best chances at getting free surge.
Yeah, speaking about southern teams, you have Possessed Diego and Ralphie, who have continued to move down past the solitude here, but like what we're looking at right now, just getting situated, right? The name of the game here. No need to fully slow down your momentum, though, as we all mentioned. You gotta find battles, need to find your tags, and being down here is only going to work against them if they can't find a trio, and little do they know, everyone seems to be long gone now.
Almost seeing the results of what happens when you're contested and don't fight it out. Where they're rotating now, a whole team already lands there, so it's already looted. Brutal boxcars. You see not only 2 teams directly in this POI, you see on the right of the minimap, 2 more teams set up at different elevations, just trying to get some easy shots down here on these teams that are trying to get as much metal as possible. The drop spot probably not having that resource, and you can see Macwood, Bacon on the outside, and their trio towards the outside. Macwood got cracked, so he's just kind of forced to box up at the edge of zone, wait to heal, while everybody else kind of gets free reign at him.
Yeah, it looks like both second there, pinpointing Macwood's bad positioning here. They're on the outer edge of the zone. It's going to cost them some extra mats to edge their way in. Meanwhile, Joji playing a super wide spread here.